Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. So, it was just me and my mom when I was growing up. My parents got a divorce when I was 8, and I was left to live with my mom. At the time, I was too small to understand what's right or wrong, and as long as my mom made me happy once in a day, I was satisfied. Although I talked to Dad over the phone once or twice a month, we didn't really meet that much. He rarely had any time for me, and he made sure to send more than enough money every month to deal with the guilt of abandoning a child. As I grew up, I finally started to realize how dysfunctional my family was and why it probably was a good thing that mom and dad separated. I must have been an accident because they never seemed interested in my life and only did the bare minimum that was required of them. My mom's habit of spending the day with her friends and leaving me alone at home until 10 or 11 was a normal thing for me. I honestly believed that's how all parents are until I met my best friend's family. After I turned 12, I started staying over at her place a lot and found out that actual parents stay at home and care for you. It wasn't just about providing financial and physical care, but also about a lot of other things. After that, I also stopped trying to have a parental bond with my mom and dad, and my best friend's parents treated me like their own child and filled that void within me. Things got really bad when I started high school. My mom rarely came back to our house at nights, and when she did, she was always completely wasted. There were instances when she'd start talking about how I ruined her life, and that if it wasn't for me, she'd be traveling like she always wanted to do. One night it got so bad that I couldn't take it anymore and had a row with my drunk mom, knowing full well she wouldn't remember the argument the next day. And she finally left me for good when I turned 17. Before she left for her trip to Brazil with her then boyfriend, she told me that I've grown up enough to understand that we have our own lives and that she needs to live her own. After she left, my grandpa and grandma moved in with me. They had always been a support for me over the years, and in my last year of high school, they really showed me what it's like to actually live with people who love you. I never saw or talked to my mom again. The only updates I got about her were from grandma, who was in contact with my mom. I finally left for college at 18 and started my new life without thinking that I have anyone to rely on. Of course, my dad took care of tuition and everything, but that was the limit of his fatherly affection. It's been 12 years since then, and I'm 30 now. I haven't talked to my mom in 12 years. My dad isn't with us anymore, and the only time I saw him as an adult was at his funeral. I thought I'd find out about my mom in a similar way, but I was really wrong. Last week, I received a text from my mom. She must have got my number from grandma. The text read how much she missed me and would like to meet me now that I've really grown up, both physically and mentally. She said that I'm at an age where I'll understand that her choices of living her own life were the right ones, and that, as an adult, we should let go of the past and accept the people that we are. She also wrote about how I should treat her as a fellow woman and respect her life decisions. She wrote that even though she didn't talk to me, she missed me a lot and thought about me every single day. She told me that we should meet sometime and catch up. Now, if it was any other day, I might have taken an objective approach to her out of the blue contact. Too bad for her that I was in the middle of grieving my grandpa's dad, who was more of a parental figure for me than both my mom and dad combined. He passed away about a fortnight ago, and his funeral was last Friday. When I met Grandma, she told me that my mom had come by the house and had created a fuss over Grandpa's will. When my grandpa told Grandma that he was going to leave all his fortune to her and me, Grandma convinced him that as an old lady, she doesn't need anything from him as she has enough to last her a decade. She told him to leave everything to me, and so that's what he did. Now that his will was disclosed, my mom was furious for not getting anything. She didn't even attend his funeral. If Grandma hadn't told me about the fuss my mom created the other day, I would have thought that the text I received might have been a sincere effort to try and mend our relationship. But I'm not a kid anymore, and that kind of wishful thinking wouldn't get me anywhere. I knew full well that all my mom wanted from me was a part of my grandpa's wealth, and I have no plans of giving her any of it. For all I care, she could live the rest of her life either on the streets or with a man she picked up on one of her trips. I had already made plans for Grandma to move in with me, and I don't plan on letting my pretentious mom ruin our quiet life. But sometimes I do feel a little guilty over how harsh I'm being, and that's why I need an outside opinion. AITA for thinking straight away that my mom wants nothing more than my inheritance? Should I give her a chance and meet her once to know her motives here, or am I right in assuming that she's up to no good again? So, a few days ago, I made a post about my mom contacting me out of the blue because my grandpa named me the sole inheritor in his will. Well, I read through the comments on that post, and I'm glad to see that so many of you agree with me. She's definitely contacting me for the money and nothing else. Her BS about wanting to mend our relationship was a straight up lie, and it's obvious she doesn't regret how she was with me when I was just a child. At least my dad owned up to the fact that he had no interest in me and lived all his life without pretending to care. She, on the other hand, really tried to trick me into believing she has some motherly love for me. After I ignored her first text, she sent a few more. Every single one of them was about how I should really think about her actions as a self independent woman's choice and respect her for not giving in to society's traditional bounds. Huh? Like, how could she even call herself independent when she was clearly trying to mooch my inheritance out of me? It can't be more obvious how little she thinks of me and my intelligence. I haven't even talked to her on call or otherwise, and already my hatred for her has reached some new levels. She's starting to get on my nerves, and even though I have blocked her number, I can't put it past her to contact me in some other way. I just hope she gets the hint to stay away. I can't believe that she really did it. Yes, my mom, who was absent for 23 years, finally showed up at my doorstep yesterday. I will never understand how she found the nerve to show her face in front of me. I mean, I get that inheritance or money in general can change people, and when it comes to my mother, it's true that I'm not intricately aware of her nature. But still, as a human, she should show some remorse for treating me like a doormat all those years ago. When I opened the door yesterday, it took me a second to recognize the person standing in front of me. Even though her face had the same features, she looked so frail. I don't know what she did to herself to be like this, but even I could tell that she definitely abused substances on a regular basis. There's no way that someone could have that kind of chapped lips and harsh skin without using harmful substances. Her appearance scared me more than anything else. I was about to close the door when she said that I should be a little more respectful towards the person who gave birth to me. With the hoarse voice coming from her mouth, I doubt even she would be able to recognize herself as the person who gave birth to me. And as frightened as I was, I had to show some courage because I had grandma living with me now, and I cannot allow my mom to mess up my grandma's life too. So I told her to leave before I called the cops on her. She wasn't invited to my house, and I'm pretty sure they'd take her away, even if she is my biological mom. Her reaction was too jumpy for someone who hasn't done anything wrong, and that made me doubt that she must have lived one messed up life to react so severely at the mention of cops. Either way, she scoffed a little but backed off. Now I'm actually really scared and contemplating whether I should just report her so I could get a restraining order against her, or if that would be an overreaction on my end. About 6 months ago, I wrote a post about how my mom was trying to contact me. Well, after I threatened to call the cops the first time, she did walk away, but after a few months, she again showed up at my house. I didn't report the first incident to the police, but this time she broke in when I was at work, and thankfully, Grandma was at the church, so no one was harmed. I reported the incident to the police that time and tried to get a restraining order, but they said I couldn't do it as it was the first reported incident and nothing was harmed. Since then, I moved houses because I couldn't live my life constantly worrying about her. But a week ago, my mom showed up at my new address. When I saw through the peephole who it was, I immediately called the cops and they took her away. This time they let me file for an order and my lawyer is trying to get it. Hopefully, I get it this time and my mom will stop bothering me again and again. Seriously, for 12 years she was away living her own life and just wasting away. But now that I want her to stay away, she keeps bothering me. This is so frustrating. NTA, you're not the a-hole. You did the right thing by not replying to her. Just block and ignore her. You're a grown woman, no thanks to your mom, and you don't owe her anything. NTA, no way you're the a-hole. It's your parents that are a-holes here. You don't have to feel guilty about anything. Your grandpa obviously left everything to you because he cared about you. Don't let that shameful woman take it away from you. Just cut all contact and live your life peacefully. A couple of weeks ago, I found what seemed to be a lost cat while on a walk with my girlfriend. The cat wasn't wearing a collar, was sick, seemed underweight, but it was friendly to us, indicating that it had socialized with humans before. We called the local humane society, figuring that as microchips are legally required for cats in my city, they'd get the cat back to its family the next day. They came and took the cat away. A couple of days later, the local shelter called me back to inform me that the cat wasn't chipped. Reminder, illegal. And wasn't neutered. Also illegal. They told us that they'd have the cat in the found animal section of the website for a couple of days while they looked for matching missing animal forms. If after a week no one claimed the cat, they'd offer it to us. Skip forward to a week, they call us to offer us the cat. We buy the things we need to take care of it and we go pick up the cat. Total expenses are $275 for the cat, cost of neutering, vaccines, chip exam, plus $150 for everything else for a grand total of $425. My girlfriend is unsure at first, didn't grow up with pets, but quickly grows to love the cat as it cuddles with her to fall asleep. Now the fun part. We get a call from the previous owner. They got our number from the rental company we both rent from. We live on the same street as them, saying that his kids saw their cat in our window. Cat loves our screened window, all sorts of scents out there. And that he'd like to get it back. We tell them we have adoption papers, neutering, certificate, microchip registration, and that while we aren't completely closed to the idea of giving the cat back, we'd like to be reimbursed for the legally required medical expenses we spent on the cat, which I think is reasonable. The man shows us proof that he did fill the missing animal forms for the shelter we bought the cat from before they sold us the cat, and that he called daily to ask about his cat, which his children miss. While this is obviously a mess up on the shelter's part, I feel like this isn't my mistake, and as such, not for me to fix. Like I said, I offered the man to either take the cat and to pay me what I had paid for it, or to get $150 from me to take it easier for him to get a new kitty for his family, as I was feeling bad for his kids. The man said he didn't have the money to buy the cat back from me, but still declined my money to get a new one, saying the marketplace was full of free kittens anyway. Now his kids often come to say hi to the cat in my bedroom window, which annoys me. We have hedges in front of our windows to get some privacy, and this completely defeats the purpose. And while I like the cat, I also feel guilty about taking a cat from someone who didn't really do anything bad besides not getting his cat chipped, thanks to a mess up from the shelter. So Reddit, AITA for keeping the cat? NTA, they couldn't fulfill the basic, legally required needs for the poor cat and let it wander the streets to potentially disrupt native wildlife and procreate. They've already shown they are irresponsible pet owners. Keep the cat. It's clearly going to have a better life with you. NTA, I feel bad for the kids, but Unaltered, unchipped cat is beyond irresponsible. Why sacrifice a poor kitty on the altar of a cheap owner to make the kids happy? If you let them take it back, getting hit by a car is inevitable, and a dead, squished cat is a lot more distressing for a child. I, 27 female, generally prefer to online date, but my mom asked if I wanted to meet her friend's son. I had been single for a while and thought he might be a good match from her description of him. We texted for a few days and he seems okay, so we did a video chat for a first date since we live 2 hours away. We make some small talk for 10 minutes before he asks me about my exes and why I think we didn't work out. This is a very weird question to me, and I answered truthfully, and then he asked me what race they are, which is such a weird question. I asked him to repeat because I couldn't believe my ears. I start suspecting he might have motives for asking this, but decide to answer to see if he is racist, since I'd rather know up front. I said my first boyfriend is white, my second is black, my third is Asian, and fourth is white. He then makes a face of disgust and asks why I decided to date a black guy and why only one of my four past relationships was Asian. I make a WTF face and ask him why it's relevant. He says it's just a question and then, before waiting for an answer, moved on to something else. I ask him about his dating experience and he says he hasn't tried dating because he's been too busy with school and work. The rest of the video chat is very awkward, and he ends the chat by asking me how he compares to my exes. I answered that I've only known him for a few days, so I can't answer the question, and he repeats the question and then gives up, and we end the call. After the call, I feel kind of gross and like I need a shower. I call my mom and tell her I don't want to meet in person. We already have an in person date scheduled for the weekend. And she asks why, and I tell her the details of the call. She is shocked. This guy's so rude and agrees to end this. I text the guy to tell him we aren't going to be compatible, and he says, okay, and then asks me why I think we won't be compatible. I don't bother answering him because either he purposely pissed me off or is that ignorant, neither of which I want to date. The friend, mom of this guy, calls and asks if there are any issues because the guy insists we had a great first meeting and he can't understand why I didn't want to meet him. My mom told me to tell her why directly, and I did because I felt pretty insulted. She was horrified and apologized profusely. According to her, she has set her son up with a few friends' daughters, so his insistence he's never tried dating is a lie. As they all said no, and then the friends ended their friendship, and she has no idea why. She thanked me for telling her so she can stop setting him up because, according to her, he wants her to help him find someone, but then it's causing her to lose friends. The next day, the guy called me with a different number, since I blocked his number, to yell at me that I told his mom what he said and that I shouldn't include our parents in our private matters. I hung up before he could go further because I had enough of him. AITA here? NTA. Why is the racist upset that he was called out for being a racist? What's the point of hiding it from family, but will question any female that he may develop a relationship with about what race they've previously dated? You answered his mom honestly. She was appreciative of you, horrified at her son's actions, and she cut off his active supply of women to interrogate and offend. I feel bad that none of the other friends ever said anything to her, but maybe they thought her beliefs were the same as her son's. NTA, a question was asked and you answered. Also, maybe this woman will stop trying to set her racist son up with other women, saving them from going through what you went through. Besides, he's an immature child, blaming everyone else when he gets in trouble for his own actions. He chose to be a racist, but it's your fault because you tattled on him. No, this is all on him.